The next property is behavior towards light. So materials or substances can be classified based on their behavior towards light. Here I have taken three materials: clear glass, frosty glass and wood. If you keep your hand behind these three objects, you can see your hand clearly through the clear glass. Now you cannot see your hand clearly behind the frosty glass, and you cannot see your hand at all through the wood, isn't it? Yes. So here, materials that allow nearly all light to pass through them are called transparent materials. For example, clear window glass is an example. When it comes to translucent materials that allow some or little light to pass through them are called translucent. Frosted glass, tissue paper are example. That is the reason in previous activity we cannot see your hand through the frosted glass clearly, isn't it? Yes. The third one is opaque materials. The materials that do not allow any light to pass through them are called opaque materials. Wood and metal are examples of no light passing through materials. Other interesting properties of materials. The first one is conductors of heat and non-conductors of heat. All cooking utensils, kettle, pressure cooker, etc. are made of metals, but their handles are made of wood or hard plastic. Why are the handles of these things made of wood or hard plastic? You must have seen your mom using a piece of cloth to pick up a piece of cotton cloth to pick up a hot utensil. Why is cotton cloth used for lifting hot utensils? To find an answer to these questions, you should know the following. Materials which conduct heat quickly are called good conductors of heat. For example, silver, copper, aluminium, stainless steel, brass, mercury are the good conductors of heat. The materials which do not conduct heat are called non-conductors of heat. For example, air, wood, bakelite, plastic, etc. That is the reason our cooking utensils have handles made by plastic or bakelite. The materials which conduct heat very slowly are called poor conductors of heat. Water and glass are the examples of poor conductors of heat. Now, magnetic and non-magnetic materials. Bring a magnet towards the heap of iron pins. What happens? Iron pins get attracted towards the magnet, isn't it? Yes. The materials which are attracted by the magnet are called magnetic materials. Examples: iron, nickel, steel, cobalt, etc. Here is one mnemonic where you can remember easily the examples of magnetic materials. I can see Nick. I stands for iron, C stands for cobalt, S stands for steel, N stands for nickel. Now, the materials which are not attracted by a magnet are called non-magnetic materials. Examples: aluminium, copper, gold, silver, etc. Now, can you find one more mnemonic to remember this non-magnetic materials, children? Find out. Hope you understood about magnetic and non-magnetic materials. The next interesting property is conductors and non-conductors of electricity. We can use electricity in homes and factories. We use electricity in homes and our factories. Electricity is generated at power stations, and these power stations are generally situated far away from the place where electricity is used. How is electricity brought from power stations to the place of work? Electricity is brought from the power stations to the place of work with the help of cables and wires. Can you use wires or cables of plastic, jute or any other material for transmitting electricity? No. These cables or wires are made from aluminum or copper. Why? Here, the substances which permit electricity to flow through them are called conductors of electricity. Copper, aluminum, gold, silver, etc. are good conductors of electricity. Here, silver is the best conductor of electricity, but it is not used for making cables and wires because of its high cost. Now, the substances which do not permit electricity to flow through them are called non-conductors of electricity or insulator. For example, paper, cloth, rubber, wood, etc. are non-conductors of electricity or insulators. So far we discussed about different properties of materials, isn't it? Now, how are materials grouped? Things which are similar in one or more ways can be grouped together. For example, all human beings can be divided into males and females. And our food items can be grouped as cereals, pulses, oil, etc. And your clothes may be grouped into various groups such as pants, shirts, kurtas, etc. Isn't it? The practice of putting together various kinds of different objects which are similar in one or more ways is called grouping of objects. So what do you mean by grouping of objects, children? The practice of putting together various kinds of different objects which are similar in one or more ways is called grouping of objects. And things cannot be classified into groups when they are all alike or all different. Okay, now grouping is done on the basis of similarities in one or more ways, need and convenience, isn't it? So the materials can be grouped on the basis of similarities and differences in their properties. Classification into different groups. Why is it necessary? Why is it necessary to classify different materials into different groups? Makes it easier to work with them, and also it helps us to learn their properties easily, isn't it? Why classification is important, dears? It makes it easier to work with them and also help us to learn their properties easily. Now, what are the advantages of grouping? Grouping of things or materials are very useful in our day-to-day life. Can you give me some examples? Yes, here are some examples. In a grocery shop, pulses, cereals, spices, soaps, etc. are placed in a separate groups at different locations. Have you observed that one? Yes. A chemist arranges various medicines either alphabetically or by company name. Isn't it? In a sweet shop, sweets are so arranged that similar sweets are placed together. In a book shop, books are arranged on the basis of class and the subject, isn't it? So we have so many advantages in our advantages of grouping of things or materials in our day-to-day life. Thank you.